Good morning, advanced folks. Hope you guys are doing well. I am seriously missing you guys and missing making work with you. Even just pulling out my wheel and clay and some tools at my house it's like got me feeling like I'm super happy. It just feels right. But it doesn't feel right to not be teaching and to not be sharing this with you guys. So I miss that and look forward to getting back to it next year. It'll happen. So much of the learning in my class is me guiding you guys along your own learning path, right? Like I believe that my class teaches you how to be a learner, not gives you a whole list of to-dos to accomplish. And we can't do that because we don't have a studio. And so this is really hard for me. It's really hard for me to throw something and just be like, see, look, there, now you know it. Because you don't know it. Until you actually do something, you don't know it. Everybody says knowledge is power, and I disagree. I think if that was the case, then every sixth grader with an iPhone would be powerful, but they're not. And because that's all, we're all the knowledge. Like you have all the knowledge in your pocket, but it doesn't help you. What helps you is being able to apply that knowledge and have experience with it and know what's true and what's not true and how to actually execute on knowledge, okay? So what you have to do and what I do as a teacher is I show you guys something, I give you guys the knowledge, but the learning happens when you try it, right? And that's the difference. That's the difference between my class and a lot of other classes. That's the difference between education and reality. And so my class is so much closer to reality because of that. And I want you guys to know that, and I want you to apply that to your life. Like whatever you learn, it's great. Go execute it. See if it works. Test it, right? Because then you'll find out if it's BS or it's true. And you'll also be able to someday, with your experience, create your own knowledge that you can then pass on to someone else. Today, I want to talk about T-bowls. So I just want to throw a T-bowl for you and just show you some forms that I think are really cool. As I'm talking, you're going to see some T-bowls popping up on the screen. And I really like T-bowls. Potters really like T-bowls. They're like a mix between a bowl and a mug. They've kind of become their own thing. Traditionally, they're just Japanese tea bowls, right? Like, so if you go to a tea ceremony, you'll drink tea out of these, what are called tea bowls. And but they've kind of morphed over the last 50 years into something in the United States, from at least the studio ceramic world, as being more vertical bowls with a more narrow foot. So I love them just because you don't need a handle for them. They're super comfortable and they're just kind of unique and they're a cool shape. So I'm just gonna throw one for you and just show you examples today. And the only real goal for this is just for you guys to start thinking about stuff that you might want to make next year, okay? And just so you know, I have not thrown since this all started. The clay I'm using is I'm using the New Zealand porcelain. Super soft, but it'll work. So one of the things that I do when I'm throwing these is I throw more vertically than I want in the end. So I'll pull it to where a little higher than I want, and then I stretch it out. And I also, since I'm gonna stretch it out, I leave it a little thicker. Now what I'm doing is I'm just running my fingers over the whole thing to try and keep it all consistent and make sure there's no thin spots or thick spots. Thin spots or thick spots. All right, so the pulling is done. Now I'm shaping. So remember, center open pull shape. So now I'm just gonna shape it, and I'm just gonna kind of go along like this and just give it a nice smooth shape at first and take all of the throwing lines out so that's nice and smooth. And then I'm gonna take that curve of that and drop that on the inside. Do the same thing on the inside at the bottom. There we go. Now one thing that happens with thin walled stuff, and you guys may have noticed, is when you run out of water, it'll catch, and that's what happened. I threw a little wobble on this, so I'm gonna add a little water back on it, And I'm gonna try and recenter this a little bit and then shape it up. And remember, if you hold steady, the piece will recenter. There we go. All right, so now before I get too wild with my shaping, I wanna get the rim where I want it. So you can see there's a little bit of a ridge right there. So I just wanna round that off so that when someone drinks out of it, it's kinda nice. All right, so now time for the shaping. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna put some rigidity into this. I wanna put some sharper lines into it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down here, I'm gonna take some of this off. So I'm gonna use this rounded side of the tool, of the wood knife. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that off. That saves me from trimming later. And I'm gonna make that kind of vertical right there, because that's what I want. And then from this point, I wanna go straight out. So I'm actually gonna take either this part or this part and pull it straight out. So I actually like that right there. But one thing you have to know is whenever you put a sharp corner in your pieces versus a gradual curve, sharp corners are weak. So you can't do too much to it after you put that in. So I can't come up here and throw this because it'll sag right on that sharp corner. And then I'm just gonna leave that shape kind of like that because I actually like that. And I'm just gonna sharpen it up with my smooth rib so that that curve down there is really sharp. And then I'm actually gonna put a line right next to it. And that's gonna accentuate it a little bit, wood knife. Cool. I'm also gonna put a line at the top that copies that line. And then that frames in that midsection, separates the piece visually, and it also helps me break glaze. And then now I'm gonna use my serrated rib and just give it some organic lines down the piece and up the side. So I'm just gonna, this is randomness. So this looks very controlled. So on this controlled surface, I wanna show some randomness or chaos. So then what I have on this piece is I have control and I have chaos, right? So those two things together make the piece really interesting. So I'm gonna go real slow. I'm just gonna and that's it. And then to fix this right up here, I'm just gonna widen it a little bit with my hands. And I'm just gonna push it in just a little bit with a sponge. And it'll actually probably, when I fire it, go off center a little bit, but that's okay. Because at a certain point, you actually get tired of things, everything being perfectly round. Here we go. Let me give you a close-up view. So what's cool about that is those little textures help you grip. And they also just do what I said, where they add the randomness or the chaos to a very controlled surface.